Okay, I'm going to be going through a demo of the 3PAR Inform Management Console. And one of the things that 3PAR does very, very well is really simplify storage administration. And I want to take through a couple of the basic administration skills and show you how easy it is to do that. First, let me talk a little bit about the IMC layout and what you're looking at. On the top left box, you see a number of inserts. That's what we call the 3PAR platform. I'm connected to 4 different machines. This is really meant to be a single point of management for your entire storage enterprise. Below that is a list of common actions that will change according to the manager you're in. I'll talk about the manager in a second. If I change my manager, which is the box below that, everything about the common actions changes to the focus of what manager I'm in. One of the most common tasks you do as an administrator is actually allocate storage to a host. So let's walk through that process and see what's involved in allocating some capacity to a cluster of VMware hosts. So I'm already on the provisioning manager. Here's a summary of all the systems I'm connected to. Let's go and look at this system called MKTG-INS4. It's a T400, and it's got a nice mix of fiber channel, SATA, and SSD drives. And I want to allocate some storage. I want to create a virtual volume. I'm going to give it a name, Demo 01. I'm getting a size of 100 gigabytes. And I need to associate this with a storage consumption policy. A storage consumption policy is really a place where you identify how storage will be consumed when you allocate it. The storage isn't consumed up front until I actually tell the system to consume that storage. So I'm going to make this on RAID 1 fiber channel, and I'm going to make 10 volumes. Now, since I'm creating 10 volumes, the system's going to make an assumption that I want to create all these 10 volumes of the same size and the same storage policy. I want to manage them all as one single entity. So it creates a volume set name called Demo 01, and I'll be able to manage these volumes all as a single group. I can export them with a single command. I can make snapshots across them as a single command. I get a lot of flexibility by having a virtual volume set created. So if we look at the virtual volumes listed, I have created a number of virtual volumes called Demo 01. There's 10 of them. I could look them all as a single set. I have 10 volumes in that set. And I want to export that out to a host so they can actually start using the storage. I click on Export. I'm going to export a set. The set I called was Demo 01. This is all 10 volumes at once. And I have a host set defined, which is my VMware cluster, and this is 4 hosts that are all in the cluster. Since I'm exporting a volume set to a host set, what I can do is say all these volumes are presented to all these hosts in one single command. If I add a new volume to the volume set, it's automatically exported out to all the hosts that it's exported to. If I deleted a host from the host set, all the LUNs that that host saw from the export are then removed. And I'm done. Now the host cluster just saw 10 new volumes pop up and be made available to instantly start writing to. And the layout grid will show how all the subcomponents on the disks, chunklets, are consumed. So let's go and look at virtual volumes. I want to look at my virtual volume set. And I look, and each one of these little blocks is a chunklet, 256 megabyte mini disk that we stripe across when we create our volumes. And you can see a very nice, pretty pattern of colors as these were striped across all the fiber channel disks in the system. These gaps in between are both SATA drives and SSD drives that are in the system. So let's see how complicated it is to do thin provisioning. That's another very common feature. The vast majority of 3PAR arrays have a significant amount of thin provisioned volumes on them because you get such a good cost savings. Since these are thin, I'm going to call them thin Demo 01. I'm going to make them big, 5 terabytes in size. I need to have a consumption policy associated with these volumes. That means as the host writes start coming in, I need to know how I lay out the data on the back end dynamically as the writes come in. I'm going to pick RAID 6 nearline. And the only decision point to make something thin versus fully provisioned is when you create the volume. It's going to assume that I want to have a warning associated with this volume. If I create a 5 terabyte volume and I want a warning at 1 terabyte, I would say at 20% consumption, let me know. I don't care about that. And now a large, thinly provisioned volume has been created. One of the other most common actions a storage administrator needs to perform is look at the health and the performance of the storage. So let's first look at the health of the systems. If I click on All In-Serves, and I look at Systems, I get a very quick overview summary of all the systems that I'm connected to, and we can see here this system MKTG-INS3 is almost 100% allocated on its fiber channel capacity. It has very little capacity. The nearline capacity is fine, and the rest of the systems are completely fine from a capacity point of view. If I wanted to get a little more detail on a particular system, I can click on it. I'll get a nice overview summary. If I had a failed component, say I would have a flag that would let me know there's a failed component, I could quickly drill into any failed component and really understand it very quickly from a single overview screen. A really important thing that storage administrators need to do is understand the performance of an array, and we've got a very, very robust set of tools that help you monitor and gauge the performance of the array. In the IMC, you go through the Performance tab, and let's just create a very quick report. I'm going to look at my physical disk IOPS usage. And we see that there's a fair amount of load being generated across the drives within the system. And I'm going to create a new report. This was a canned report. I'm going to create a new report that will look at the performance across virtual LUNs. If I'm looking at my physical disk IOPS, I can see that these disks are really being hit hard. They are SATA drives and rated for somewhere around 75 IOPS. We're driving almost double the performance required. So I want to go into the 3PAR, and I want to make sure I can change what I've done and rebalance the system to get more performance. It's a very easy task within 3PAR. Look at your virtual volumes. I happen to know that these 4 virtual volumes are the ones that are being stressed. I simply go on and tune this virtual volume, and what I'm moving it from is RAID 6 on nearline or SATA drives, and I'll move this volume to RAID 1 on SSD. In the background, what the 3PAR is doing is moving the volumes bit by bit from SATA drives that are laid out in RAID 6 to SSD drives that are laid out in RAID 1. And when that move is complete, you're going to see the performance of that volume jump significantly above all the other volumes within the system. Now I'm going to walk through a remote copy configuration, often the most difficult task in a storage array. Click on New Configuration. I'm going to do a one-to-one in this example. I'm going to replicate from my machine in New York City to another machine in San Francisco. I simply connect the 2 machines together. I define a replication policy. It's going to be synchronous. I'm going to replicate all of these volumes. And we're done. We've just set up replication between 2 separate 3PARs with a couple clicks of a mouse and a few minutes of time. So I've gone through a couple things on the 3PAR using the Inform Management Console, and what I really wanted to show is how easy it is to use the 3PAR GUI. First thing is I get a good overview of all the systems within the data center, or that I manage totally. It's very easy to manage large groups of allocations to things like VMware clusters where I want to treat everything as a single entity. Performance monitoring and system overview are very quick to identify and determine if there's any problems and monitor the health of the system. Management Console is really meant to be a place where you can, within seconds, do any sort of system administration, storage administration on your 3PAR.